Today I'm going to show you how to make an easy one-pan bratwurst dinner, but you also get a potato salad with roasted potatoes and baby kale. And it all goes into the oven at the same time, which I love. And later I'm going to show you how to make an easy weeknight dessert of skillet-roasted pears and caramel sauce. Bratwursts were pretty much the only sausages we ate growing up because my mother's German and she loves bratwurst. Hates all of the sausage, but yes to bratwurst. So I've come to love bratwurst over the years, and this is a great way to cook it because it's hands-off and it's in the oven and it gets nice and roasted. So as I mentioned, the potatoes are going on the sheet pan at the same time, and I'm just going to prep those real quick just by cutting them in half. Now I scrubbed these potatoes already, and this is just a pound of baby red potatoes or little red potatoes, or new red potatoes. So many terms for this size potato. But what you want is a potato, what is that? A large grape, a double size olive? Yeah, golf ball size potato. If they're larger, you're gonna have to cut them into smaller pieces, obviously. So cutting them in half, that way the cut sides go face down on the baking sheet and they get nice and golden. All right, so just cutting these little guys in half. All right, now I'm gonna put them in a bowl, toss them with just a little bit of olive oil, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and a little bit of salt and pepper. 2 tablespoons. A little salt, a little pepper. This is how I toss them. It's kind of fun. It's always a game to see if you can keep them all in the bowl. Oh, I'm winning. All right, that's good. That's it for the potatoes. Now for the red onions. They're gonna roast on top of the bratwursts in the oven. They get nice and soft and sometimes a little crisp around the edges. We're gonna slice these nice and thin. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming off the tip end of the onion, going, the trim bowl, which usually in my house is a dog bowl, is just nice to have off to the side when you're prepping vegetables because you can put your vegetable trims in there and it helps keep your cutting board clean. And there's a saying that is, you cook as well as you clean. I'm a firm believer in that. All right, so cut each onion in half. Gonna take the outer skin off and that first layer. That first layer can be a bit bruised and also can be a bit stinky and leathery. So now I'm also gonna trim off the root end because I'm gonna cut these onions pole to pole. And I really prefer cutting things pole to pole if you're cutting sliced onions because they look a little less wormy. You know, they have a nice, gentle, graceful shape. All right, let's get this board cleaned up here. All right, to thinly slice an onion pole to pole. So this is where the tip and the root were that I trimmed off. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna angle my knife as I slice thinly. About halfway through, I usually tip it on its side just to make it easier. And then this is the game. How thin can you go? Right in the middle. All right, so here we go again. There we go. These go into a bowl. We're going to toss these with a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon. This is also when I like to pull out my bench scraper. Just makes it easy to get the little bits off the board. All right, a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon. For these, I'm going to get my hands in there, really break up the onions. That way they'll roast nice and evenly. All right, so that's all the prep that this dinner takes, just the potatoes and the onions. I have 4 nice big bratwursts sitting there. So the key to this dinner is roasting all these things at the same time on a preheated baking sheet. So the baking sheet has been heating up in this oven. It is good and hot. Woo, she's a hot pan. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the bratwurst. Hear that sizzle? That's how you get browning on a bratwurst in the oven. Oh yeah, so we're gonna put these on this side. I'm gonna put the potatoes on the other side. And I am gonna take my time and flip them cut side down. You want those cut sides to get nice and roasted. You could use tongs here if you want to. I kind of have asbestos fingertips at this point, so it's not that hot for me. All right, so potatoes on one side, brats on the other, and now these onions are just gonna go right kind of around the brats, a little over the brats. I like them picking up all that brat flavor. All right. All right, so this sheet pan is ready for the oven. It's a 425-degree oven, and this will cook through in about half an hour. But of course, halfway through, I'm gonna flip those brats over so they get nice and browned on both sides. Coming up next, I'm gonna show you how to make homemade whole grain mustard. Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today. Homemade whole grain mustard tastes terrific on bratwurst, and it's easy to do. Start by using both yellow and brown mustard seeds. This is 1/3 cup of both. There are the brown, there are the yellow. To this, we're gonna add 1/2 cup of water and 3/4 cup of cider vinegar. Now we're gonna let these mustard seeds soak and hydrate, and they need to soak for at least 8 hours, but you can do it up to a day in advance. All right, now here's a bowl where the seeds have been soaking. You can see how different they are. They've really absorbed all that liquid. Starting to look more like mustard now. Now we're gonna grind these mustard seeds into a nice fine paste, but I'm gonna reserve 1/2 cup of the seeds so that they can be in the finished mustard. The rest of the seeds go right into the food processor. To this, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and 1 1/4 teaspoons of table salt. Now we're just gonna process this until it's smooth, which can take a minute or two. Oh, it smells so potent right when you grind those mustard seeds. I'm gonna put the puree back into the bowl. Gonna stir in the reserved whole seeds. And that's it. That's all it takes to make the mustard. And now we'll portion them into mustard jars. I like glass jars here because this stuff stores for a long time. Also, it makes a great gift if you're going to someone's house. Bringing homemade mustard is pretty cool. All right, now the key is to let this mustard sit at room temperature for a day or two. And as it sits, it'll get much more intense in flavor. So you want to taste it periodically, put it in the fridge when it has the intensity you like. And once it's in the fridge, it'll last for quite a while, up to 6 months, which is why when it makes 2 jars, it's nice to give one to a friend. And that's it, easy whole grain mustard. Those brats are just finishing up in the oven, and now I'm gonna make a quick dressing for the potatoes that we'll then add the baby kale and the radishes to. And this is the time when I do measure things out. I want the right amount of vinegar to olive oil. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar with my nice little measuring cup. I love this thing. It's great because not only is it accurate, it's tiny and can go in the dishwasher. All right, now I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons of olive oil. So that's a pretty hearty ratio of oil to vinegar. That's a 2-to-1 ratio, which makes a strong vinaigrette, but with the potatoes and everything we're adding, it's good here. I'm gonna add the oil. We're gonna add some homemade mustard, about 2 tablespoons. Last but not least, a little salt and pepper. All right. Just whisk this together. Nice and simple, good flavors, especially with that mustard. All right, now let's take a look at the brats in the oven. Oh, yes. See, I know it looked a little dicey halfway through, right? But the brats really do get nice and brown in the second 15 minutes. You can see they get brown on both sides. All right, so what I'm gonna do is take a metal spatula and I'm gonna scrape up the potatoes. Oh, see that browning on the potatoes? Here, let me hold one up for you. That's what we're talking about. That's a preheated baking sheet, and that's a little oil on the potatoes. Ah, tastes so good. All right, so I'm gonna scrape up the potatoes. A few of the onions might get in there, that's okay. They're gonna go right into the dressing. That way they'll soak up all that flavor. There we go. All right, we're gonna let these potatoes cool down in this dressing. Meanwhile, I'm going to cover the brats and the onions just with a little foil so they stay warm. All right, and last but not least, I'm gonna toast the buns. So I'm pretty picky about my buns. I really don't like hot dog buns. I like a more firm hoagie style roll. And these ones are nice and short so the bratwurst stick a little bit out the ends, which I like. Now I'm gonna cut them so we can fit the brats in, and I'm gonna cut them down the top. That's after years of experience, because when you take a bite and put it down, if you cut it through the top, you have a nice flat surface. If you go through the side, it gets all wobbly. All right, so into the oven these go, about 5 minutes, right on the oven rack to toast. Right, so those are gonna toast for about 5 minutes, which gives me a little time to slice some fresh radishes for the salad. Now the recipe calls for 4 radishes, but these radishes are tiny. I mean, that's the size of a blueberry, which means it's gonna have probably a very sweet flavor. So I'm gonna use a few more than 4, probably 6 or 8. Oh, that little one tasted good. Peppery. So those rolls are in the oven, almost done toasting. Now I'm just gonna assemble the salad. There are some of the radishes. So now I'm gonna add about 5 ounces of baby kale, which is about 5 cups. And I love baby kale because it has real flavor and texture, unlike some other of the baby lettuces that are more delicate, especially when you have the roasted potatoes. It just makes sense here. So now I'm just gonna toss this together. Got a few free spirits there that like to jump out of the bowl. Using my salad hands, these are perfect for salads like this that are on the hearty side because it really keeps your fingers clean, but it really helps get down to the bottom. You can really toss things up and through. Oh, that mustard smells good. All right, so there is the salad. Now let's get those rolls out of the oven. Ooh. And I like toasting the rolls not only because I like the texture, but I feel as though it almost refreshes them, you know, from being more stale out of the bag to being freshly baked. Now for the brats. Oh, hello, lovelies. All right, I assemble everyone's brats. Right on the, oh, you can see the steam coming off that roll. Yes, please. Oh. All right, and you can see these onions, they really have cooked down. Some of them are a little caramelized, which is lovely. I like stirring them around so that really mixes up the caramelized ones with the ones that are still just a little softened. So, on goes a little mustard. Yes, please. A little for you, and a little for you, oh, and a little for you. On goes a little bit of sauerkraut. I never eat brats without sauerkraut. And I love making it, but also there's so many good versions of sauerkraut you can find in the stores now, including red sauerkraut and beet sauerkraut, which I love the flavor, but I love the color. I just think it makes these bratwurst look a little bit more festive, a little bit more like party dogs. Party dogs. That sounds like a good name for this meal. Sounds like something that would happen to my house for sure. The mat in the front of my house says, hope you like dogs, because our dogs are crazy. They'll greet you whether you want them to or not. All right, oh, a little red cabbage. Last but not least, some of these roasted onions. Oh, that last one got a lot of onions. Leave some onions on the side for those who want it. All right, and that's it. That's as easy as it gets for a nice, easy dinner of bratwurst and roasted potato salad with kale. A little more potatoes for me. Oh yeah, and that's it. As easy as it gets for a bratwurst and warm potato salad. Of course, what goes better with brats and potatoes than a nice cold beer? This is a nice mild lager, and this glass is It's from my grandparents' house. I used to think it's a Pilsner glass, and it's in that shape. I never saw my Opa drink out of these, but he had a nice set of them. I think maybe they were for company. So, my Opa's glass. Now time to eat. The roasted potatoes with that little bit of dressing, red wine dressing, and that homemade mustard is everything. All right, I'm going in. This kind of meal is not for the faint of heart. I mean, this is a shirt. I call it a shirt killer. Like the shirt's going down. So I'm all in. I'm not precious about this. Perfect flavors. The bratwurst is a little roasted. The mustard, the toasty bun, the roasted onions, that little bit of sauerkraut. This is a good dinner. Oh, ice cold beer tastes good with the brats and the potatoes and the homemade mustard. This is a very German dinner and I'm loving it. Coming up next, I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite weeknight desserts, skillet-roasted pears with caramel sauce.
We'll get you right back to the video. Check out Cook's Country's newest book, The Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook.
Over 16 seasons and more than 600 recipes are condensed into this cookbook, jam-packed with every recipe we feature on the show, plus stories, tips, and reviews.
Go on the road with Cook's Country and tour the U.S. through food. Get inspired by dishes from restaurants, regions, and chefs all over America.
All in this one convenient cookbook.
To order your copy of the Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook, scan the QR code or visit cookscountry.com to continue your Cook's Country journey.
Now I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite weeknight desserts because it's so easy. It's just 2 pears, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of water. And we're going to caramelize the pears in a nonstick skillet. And the best part is you need firm pears, which is basically what they sell at the store anyway. So we're gonna get started by putting some sugar and some water in a 12-inch skillet. Now, non-stick skillet, because you want the caramel to stick to the pears, not the skillet. So I'm gonna add 1/3 cup of water to a 12-inch nonstick pan, and the water will just barely cover the bottom of the pan. That's perfect. Now we're gonna add 2/3 cup of sugar. And again, we're making caramel, so I'm just gonna add the sugar right to the center of the pan and let it hydrate with that water. A lot of liquid's gonna come out of the pears, so that's why it's not very much water. All right, we're gonna put this over medium heat, and using a nice clean spatula, you just wanna gently stir the sugar into the water. All right, so that sugar is dissolved. I'm just gonna let that cook for about 2 minutes and bubble away. And meanwhile, it gives us time to prep the pears, which is very easy. I'm gonna peel them. Now, you don't have to peel them, but I think it's nicer if they're peeled. I don't really like the softened peels once they're cooked. So you can use either Bosc or Bartlett pears, and again, they should be really firm to the touch. I mean, not unripe, but definitely firm, because they're gonna soften up in the caramel as it cooks. So I'm leaving the stems on. I've washed these pears, of course, because I love how the stem looks on a peeled pear when it's caramelized. I just think it looks pretty. So I developed this recipe about 20 years ago, and it was loosely based on an amazing dinner I had in San Francisco 30 years ago. So I was living in San Francisco, and my parents came to visit me, and my father said, make a reservation at the finest French restaurant in town. So I quickly dialed a restaurant called Alain Rondalie, and that's the name of the chef who owned a little French restaurant. It was very fancy, and we had, I think, a 13 or 11 course tasting meal, complete with wine pairings at every tasting. And we were the loudest table in the place by far. And one of the plates they served us was this beautiful caramelized pear, and instead of just making a caramel, they made a reduction sauce with champagne and black pepper, and then it was caramel, and then they had a wedge of blue cheese of Stilton, and they served it with a sauterne, and the whole thing blew my mind. My mother, who had a little bit of wine and she got a little tipsy, she couldn't believe her luck because she loves pears and she loves caramelized pear. And I just remember, again, we were the loudest table in the place, she sat back in her chair and she said, the pear is caramelized. And it was just nirvana to her. And so when I developed this recipe, I had that in mind. But of course, I simplified it. No blue cheese, no champagne, no black pepper, although those are fun. I just like the pears and the caramel, especially for a weekday. All right, so now I'm having the pears, and you don't have to use a melon baller to take out the core, but I love how perfect that looks. It's just a perfect round core when you do it. You can always use a paring knife, but I just think that looks so pretty. And the caramelized part of the pear goes right around that hole, so it looks kind of modern. Now the recipe, right when I developed it, I said to take out this stem part here with a paring knife. But over the years I've stopped doing that, largely because I love to get it all caramelized and I just tell people to eat around it. My family by now knows. Time to get the pears into this skillet. I'm gonna add them cut side down. Now I'm just doing 2 pears here because that's enough for my little family, but you can definitely fit a few more in the skillet. All right, on goes the lid, and we're gonna cook these pears in this liquid for 10 to 15 minutes. And to tell the doneness of the pears, I'm gonna poke it with a fork, and I should just meet a little resistance. I'm also using a clear lid, and I'm gonna keep my eye on that caramel and turn the heat down if it starts to get too dark. So it's been about 12 minutes. Ooh, you can see it's starting to get caramel on the back side of the pan. Ooh, and those pears are nice. Perfect. Now I'm just going to make sure the caramel that's browning on one side of the pan gets nice and evenly mixed into the caramel on the other side of the pan that wasn't browning. And I'm going to cook the pears uncovered until the pears are nice and caramelized on that first side and the sauce has a lovely golden color. That caramel is looking good and brown. Let's take a look at the pears. Look at that. It's beautifully caramelized on the one side. So now we're going to finish by adding a little bit of cream, 2/3 of a cup of heavy cream. It's going to pour right into the skillet around the pears. And the cream will mix with that caramel and make a lovely caramel sauce. We're going to let this cook for about 3 or 4 minutes or so. Let that cream reduce down and mix with the caramel. I usually wind up basting the pears with the caramel sauce here at the end. Now that's not in the recipe and I don't think it does anything, but I just think it's fun. That looks pretty good. The caramel is a nice deep color. The pears are gorgeously caramelized on the cut side. And that's all it takes. So to serve these, you can put them on a platter and spoon the caramel right over top, or you can go right onto individual plates. Pour the caramel over. I like filling the little holes with caramel. Oh yeah. Last but not least, just to gild the lily a little bit, I like to sprinkle with some salt. So you can season the caramel sauce with salt, which is how it's written in the recipe. But over the years, I've come to just sprinkling some fleur de sel right over the top of the pears. Again, fleur de sel is French sea salt, and it has these lovely, big, crunchy crystals that with the caramel is a really good texture. And now to taste it. Oh, a little extra caramel on the plate. I like drizzling the caramel around. It's like messy on purpose. Now to taste it. Oh, you can just see how soft that pear is. Buttery. And again, those were rock hard pears to start. It's just so simple. Just the pear and the caramel. And as my mother would say, the pear is caramelized. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?